Welcome to another video by Psychology for Life. Today we will be discussing the Code of Ethics in Psychological Assessment for Filipino psychologists. But first, what is a Code of Conduct? A Code of Conduct is a set of principles and expectations to guide the behavior of all those who belong to a particular organization. Why is a code of conduct important? A code of conduct is important because it gives unity, standards, and direction to an organization. The code of conduct provides unity because every member of the professional organization, once they agree to become a member, will be expected to follow the rules and regulations of that organization. The Code of Conduct also provides standards for the organization. It lays down the expectations for all members of the organization. They know exactly what they are supposed to do, how they are supposed to behave, how they are supposed to practice their profession, as well as the violations that they should not commit in the practice of their profession. Finally, the Code of Conduct provides the organization with direction. It tells them where the organization is headed and what will guide them in order to get there. Now let us turn to the Code of Ethics and Professional Standards for Psychology Practitioners. The Psychological Association of the Philippines, or PAP, adopted the Code of Ethics for the Philippines in 2008. On December 2015, upon the request of the Professional Regulatory Board of Psychology, a review of this code was undertaken. This review was attended by the PAP Board of Directors and Division Chairs, as well as the Professional Regulatory Board of Psychology. Psychology practitioners in the Philippines adhere to the following Universal Declaration of Ethical Principles for Psychologists that was adopted unanimously by the General Assembly of the International Union of Psychological Science in Berlin on July 22, 2008. Principle number 1 is respect for the dignity of persons and peoples. Respect for the dignity of persons is the most fundamental and universally recognized ethical principle that cuts across geographical and cultural boundaries and professional disciplines. This principle encompasses respect for the unique worth and inherent dignity of all human beings, respect for the diversity among persons and peoples, respect for customs and beliefs of cultures, to be limited only when a custom or belief seriously contravenes the principle of respect for the dignity of persons or peoples, or causes harm to their well-being. Free and informed consent as culturally defined and relevant for individuals, families, groups, and communities. Privacy of individuals, families, groups, and communities. Protection of confidentiality of personal information of individuals, families, groups, and communities, and fairness and justice in the treatment of persons and peoples. Principle number 2 is competent caring for the well-being of persons and peoples. Competent caring for the well-being of persons and peoples involves working for their benefit and, above all, of doing no harm to them. It includes maximizing benefits, minimizing potential harm, and offsetting or correcting harm. Competent caring includes the following components. Letter A. Active concern for the well-being of individuals, families, groups, and communities. B. Ensuring that no harm is done to individuals, families, groups, and communities. C. Maximizing benefits and minimizing potential harm to individuals, families, groups, and communities. D. Correcting or offsetting harmful effects that have occurred as a result of their activities. E. Developing and maintaining competence. F. Self-knowledge regarding how their own values, attitudes, experiences, and social contexts influence their actions, interpretations, choices, and recommendations. And finally, respect for the ability of individuals, families, groups, and communities to make decisions for themselves and to care for themselves and each other. The third principle is integrity. Integrity is vital to the advancement of scientific knowledge and to the maintenance of public confidence in the discipline of psychology. Integrity is based on honesty and on truthful, open, and accurate communication. It includes recognizing, monitoring, and managing potential biases, multiple relationships, and other conflicts of interest that could result in harm and exploitation of persons or peoples. Integrity includes the following components: A. Honesty and truthful, open, and accurate communication. B. Avoiding incomplete disclosure of information unless complete disclosure is culturally inappropriate or violates confidentiality or carries the potential to do serious harm to individuals, families, groups, or communities. C. Maximizing impartiality and minimizing biases. D. Not exploiting persons or peoples for personal, professional, or financial gain. And E. Avoiding conflicts of interest and declaring them when they cannot be avoided or inappropriate to avoid. The fourth principle is professional and scientific responsibilities to society. Psychology functions as a discipline within the context of human society. As a science and a profession, it has responsibilities to society. These responsibilities include contributing knowledge about human behavior and to the person's understanding of themselves and others, and using such knowledge to improve the condition of individuals, families, groups, and communities, and society. Professional and scientific responsibilities to society includes the following values: A. The responsibility to increase scientific and professional knowledge in ways that allow the promotion of well-being of society and all its members. B. The responsibility to use psychological knowledge for beneficial purposes and to protect such knowledge from being misused, used incompetently, or made useless. Letter C. The responsibility to conduct its affairs in ways that are ethical and consistent with the promotion of the well-being of society and all its members. D. The responsibility to promote the highest ethical ideals in the performance of scientific, professional, and educational activities of its members. E. The responsibility to adequately train its members as regards their ethical responsibilities and required competencies. And F. The responsibility to develop its ethical awareness and sensitivity and to be as self correcting as possible. Aside from the principles just mentioned, psychology practitioners shall subscribe to the following ethical standards and procedures relative to psychological assessment. The first is the basis for assessment. A. The expert opinions that psychology practitioners shall provide through their recommendations, reports, and diagnostic or evaluative statements must be based on substantial information and appropriate assessment techniques. B. Psychology practitioners shall provide expert opinions regarding the psychological characteristics of a person only after employing the adequate assessment procedures and examination to support their conclusions and recommendations. And letter C, the instances where psychology practitioners are asked to provide opinions about an individual based on the review of existing test results and reports, but without the benefit of conducting an actual examination, they shall discuss the limitations of their opinions and the basis for their conclusions and recommendations. The next issue relevant to assessment is informed consent in assessment. Letter A. Psychology practitioners shall obtain their clients' informed consent prior to the conduct of any assessment except in the following instances: 1. When mandated by law; 2. When implied, such as in the conduct of routine educational, institutional, and organizational activity; or 3. When the purpose of the assessment is to determine the individual's decisional capacity. B. Psychology practitioners shall educate their clients about the nature of their services, financial arrangements, potential risks, and limits of confidentiality. In instances where their clients are not competent to provide informed consent on assessment, the psychology practitioners shall discuss these matters with the immediate family members or legal guardians. And C. In instances where a third party interpreter is needed, the confidentiality of test results and security of tests must be ensured. Another important issue relevant to assessment is the use of assessment tools. A. Psychology practitioners shall judiciously select and administer only those tests that are pertinent to the reasons for referral and purposes of the assessment. Letter B. Psychology practitioners shall use data collection, methods, and procedures that are consistent with current scientific and professional developments. C. Psychology practitioners shall use assessment tools of which the validity and reliability have been established. When this is not possible, they shall describe the advantages and limitations of test results and interpretation. And letter D. Psychology practitioners shall administer assessment tools appropriate to the client's needs and profile to include the educational attainment, language used, level of competence, and other relevant characteristics of the client. Another important issue related to assessment are obsolete and outdated test results. A. Psychology practitioners shall not base their interpretations, conclusions, and recommendations on outdated test results. And B. Psychology practitioners shall not provide interpretations, conclusions, and recommendations on the basis of obsolete tests. Interpreting assessment results. Letter A. Under no circumstances shall psychology practitioners report the test results without taking into consideration the validity, reliability, and appropriateness of the test. Any reservation concerning the validity or reliability of an assessment procedure arising from its administration, norms, or domain reference should be made explicit in any report. And B. Psychology practitioners shall interpret assessment results while considering the purpose of the assessment and other factors such as the client's test-taking abilities, characteristics, situational, personal, and cultural differences. Release of test data. A. It is the responsibility of psychology practitioners to ensure that test results and interpretations are not used by persons other than those explicitly agreed upon by the referral sources prior to the assessment procedure. And letter B. Psychology practitioners shall not release test data in the form of raw and scaled scores, clients' responses to test questions or stimuli, and notes regarding the client's statements and behaviors during the examination. Explaining assessment results. Psychology practitioners shall release test results only to the referral sources and with a written permission from the client if it is a self-referral. B. Where test results have to be communicated to clients or their relatives, parents, or teachers, the psychology practitioners shall explain these test results through non-technical language. C. Psychology practitioners shall explain the findings and test results to their clients or designated representatives unless agreed otherwise. Letter D. Any reservation concerning the validity or reliability of an assessment procedure arising from its administration, norms, or domain reference should be made explicit in any report. And letter E. When test results need to be shared with schools, social agencies, the courts, or industry, the psychology practitioners shall supervise such releases. Test security. The administration and handling of all test materials, such as manuals, keys, answer sheets, reusable booklets, etc., shall be handled only by qualified users or personnel. Assessment by unqualified persons. Psychometricians are authorized to administer, score, interpret, and prepare a written report on objective personality tests or structured personality tests, but not projective tests. Projective tests are administered, scored, interpreted, and written up only by psychologists who are trained for such purpose. Psychometricians shall be supervised by psychologists. Psychologists shall not promote the use of assessment tools and methods by unqualified persons except for training purposes and with adequate supervision. Psychology practitioners shall ensure that test protocols, their interpretations, and all other records are kept secured from unqualified persons. Finally, the last issue regarding assessment is test construction. Psychologists shall develop tests and other assessment tools using current scientific findings and knowledge, appropriate psychometric properties, validation, and standardization procedures. Thank you for watching another video by Psychology for Life. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe.